represented by occult religious beliefs of the IOC in today's Olympics. The lighting of the Olympic flame, the torch relay, the Olympic oath, all athletes and officials take in unison. The procession of the country that opens and closes the games. These are all part of the pagan rituals of the ancient games, which were banned because of their paganism and threat to society. And now they're back bigger than ever, with more technology behind them than all the world's ever seen. It's the Spaceman on AM 640 Toronto Radio. I want to touch on the 1972 Munich Games. But I want to start it after the break at the top of the hour. That's coming up on A View from Space on AM 640 Toronto Radio. I'm Space, coming back with more.
Let's face it, opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of AM 640 Toronto Radio. You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman, exercising the right to free speech while he still can. AM 640 Toronto Radio.
I'm the guy that calls Space. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio. Shows A View from Space. So, anti-Semitism, the modern Olympics, they came together, those four words, anti-Semitism, modern Olympics. See, during the 1936 Berlin Games, which I was just going on about, Adolf Hitler barred Jewish athletes from competing for Germany. During the 72 Munich Games, 11 Israeli athletes were shot and killed. Remember, any event with a number 11 connotation is directly aiding the rise of the Antichrist. And this is one event that really has been built on. The IOC has never, ever acknowledged this despicable act, which is now known as the world's first terrorist attack. This is really the first time the word terrorist was used in the media. And it was showcased where? At the Olympic Games. Can you recall the 8 Black September Fedayeen with their ski masks on, leaning over the balcony at 31 Kolonistrasse? Guarded, but at the same time, strangely confident. Notice the address number of Kolonistrasse. 31. That's a 4, the number of foundation. And they've sure built on that event. Haven't they? This is the foundation of what the Third World War will be started. 3 of the captured surviving kidnappers, they killed 5 of them. 3 of them were released. By who? Germany. Remember why they were released? Following the hijacking of a Lufthansa airliner. I'm thinking because they were so strangely confident, they were probably told they would be protected at the Olympics. That they would get away. Don't worry about it. Just do your job. We'll take care of the rest. So was it an inside job by the Olympics? Did you watch the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games? Catch the speech by Yoko Ono about visualizing peace? What was her line? If 4 billion people visualize peace, then there will be peace. And they used their global event to launch awareness of the Jewish-Palestinian conflict to their worldwide audience in 1972. This shows you how they play both sides of the fence to confuse you. Just so you know, Yoko Ono was born into a privileged background. She is the oldest child of Isoko Isuda, a member of one of Japanese wealthiest banking families. She was John Lennon's controller. Yes, he was brainwashed, mind manipulated. She was the controller. And they sang Imagine, that atheistic song. Imagine there's no heaven. Imagine there's no hell. Now you know why she was at center stage with all the other Illuminati dignitaries. Let me just go over a few occultic Olympic opening ceremonies to ensure that you don't think this only happens occasionally. 1964, Innsbruck, Austria. Young Greek maidens lit the Olympic flame at the sacred altar of Hera in Athens, Greece. Olympic rings were engraved at the Greek altar site just below the sacred flame by Nazi Leni Riefenstahl, as I've mentioned. A pagan fire ritual was performed as a flame that was kindled from the sun's rays. A torch lit from the flame was carried by a series of runners to the Winter Games at Innsbruck. 1994 Norway Winter Games. Trolls, which are nature demons, were spotlighted in opening and closing ceremonies accompanied by strange-sounding music. 96 Atlanta. Giving historical homage to Zeus. A portable silhouette temple with 50-foot pillars was erected for the opening ceremonies. A high priestess was also there to cast her silhouette in front of the ceremonial lights. 5 majestically dressed individuals were slowly elevated in the stands, wearing pagan-looking gold sun disk masks. They introduced the 5 Olympic colors representing the 5 Babylonian planet deities. And NBC announced, and now, the 5 Olympic spirits awaken, calling forth the rebirth of the modern games. That's what they said. And the background music was an eerie-sounding guttural chant. And with this hypnotic background music, the needed magical atmosphere was set in place for the revival of the old pagan Olympic gods. And the majestic music reinforces the pagan element. During the closing ceremony, the pagan Aborigines were also given center stage in the stadium. The Aborigines are well known for their primitive occult magic and nature worship. They got a strong magical tradition, believing they can communicate with the sacred being, the sky gods, and the spirits of the dead. They have a word for the Aboriginal sorcerer. He's called a Kadicha man. 1998, Nagano, Japan. A Buddhist temple forms the backdrop for the games. This is incredible. 2002, Salt Lake City, Utah. Winter Games. From the ancient Mount Olympus in Greece, home of the Greek gods, to Salt Lake City's Mount Olympus. The Olympic Games have finally come full circle. The circle? The symbol for the sun. A disk. A circle with a dot in the middle. Used by you too. I believe it's in Vertigo. It's the same symbol as the World War II British Air Force on their aircraft. Looked like a target, remember? And remember, Zeus's major weapon was a lightning bolt. The ancient Olympic Games began as a religious festival for Zeus. And in 2002, they played out in Utah at Salt Lake City's Mount Olympus, a land founded in a religious sanctuary. 2 years later, their games returned to their home, Athens, Greece. Are you starting to get it? The circle is complete. The world is theirs. This also gives you an insight into Fawcett's flight around the world. That's a ritual that was being performed right at the beginning of the Turin Olympics. Remember? He set out... Well, here's the news story headline, if you don't believe me. Steve Fawcett, the millionaire adventurer, backed by Virgin, completed the longest non-stop flight in aviation history on Saturday, February 11th, flying 26,389 miles in about 76 hours. You knew he was going to set the record when he took off from Florida, didn't you? I did. And I knew what he was doing. It was the ritual of the circle. The games had come to their complete circle. They were now in Torino, the bull, representing Zeus. What kind of a guy was Zeus? Wow. A description's next on AM 640 Toronto Radio on A View from Space.
Deprogramming the brainwashed simply by uncovering the truth. He's the spaceman with A View from Space. AM 640 Toronto Radio. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640 Toronto Radio.
All right, space. Another Olympiad. So, I'm revealing the hidden truths on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Isn't it ironic that the site of Olympia, Greece, which was chosen for its strategic position, should be destroyed by natural forces peculiar to its locality? In the 4th century, 2 massive earthquakes tore the sanctuary apart, toppled the columns, shattered the walls. A river burst its banks, destroying almost half of the gymnasium, and never returned to its former course, that river. Eventually, the entire site was covered with silt to a depth of about 13 feet. I'd say a real fitting end to what honored Zeus, the pagan weather god. Speaking of weather, remember the 2004 Athens opening. Let me refresh your memory. August 13th of 04, the 28th Summer Olympics in Athens, the first modern Olympiad, held there in 1896. It finally returns home. $4 billion